listeners, Tiki here,
And BlueDragonFive.
and welcome, one and all, to the Steven Universe, the movie, Spoilercast. Yay!
Woo!
To quote Nate VA, yay! All right. So, Dragon, let's just get thesis statements out of the way right now. I kind of love this thing, man. This thing is a throwback to the great 2D animated musicals of our past. I, Dragon, I almost think it's a shame that I have to talk about this after the first watch without really diving into the soundtrack, because this soundtrack, folks, I'm sitting here as like a stupid like Broadway theater kid who's like, really into this kind of stuff, into these kind of like sung through musicals with like very little dialogue in between. Oh, Dragon, this is like basically I'm kind of brimming the same way I was brimming after Mr. Greg. Dragon, most of the time, even if we like a Steven Universe episode, we say, well, it's no Mr. Greg. Mr. Greg for us was like kind of, I don't know how the general public feels about Mr. Greg. I have no idea. But for us, just in that reaction we did of it, man, that was a high point for us. That was just like there was something about the way the songs came together in that episode with the animation and just the way it drove the story forward and progressed the narrative between Greg and Pearl and had that reach a very satisfying conclusion. Man, Mr. Greg was a high point. But Dragon, this is basically an hour and 22 minutes of Mr. Greg. And I can't be happier about that, man. And not only is it an hour and 22 minutes of Mr. Greg, but it's also just like you get the benefit of this really, really awesome, scary villain. I'm going to echo Nate VA when I say this. Spinel, greater than Scar. I said it! And Dragon, I know you haven't seen The Lion King, but believe me, man, I can definitely echo that. But Dragon, having said that, I just want to put this out there as part of our thesis here. In that, Dragon, you and I feel like it's fair to say we seasons 1 through 3 was kind of like a big upward spike. Like, like we got really, really into that story, like as it was going. Up until season 3, I mean, season 3 was really kind of like a high point for us. But then Dragon season 4 happened, and I think you and I can both agree season 4 just filled with a lot of filler episodes, a lot of kind of like dragging its feet. I don't really think the direction was very on point in that season. I don't really know what was going on behind the scenes, but that season just felt a little chaotic. And then season 5 came along. Dragon, the thing about season 5 is it wrapped up the story well enough. It was satisfying. I think maybe the problem with season 5 was that the airing schedule was spread out so much that it's hard to really remember season 5 on a whole. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of remember little bits and pieces of season 5, but I haven't really gone back to rewatch it as a whole yet. So suffice to say, folks, the only reason I'm putting this out there is just to say that Dragon and I, we weren't the biggest fans of the show by the time the show ended. We respected the show. We definitely respected the high point of season 3 for sure and what it achieved, but we weren't necessarily, like singing its praises by the time it went off air, or I mean, not went off air, but by the time season 5 concluded. So I just want to put that out there just because I love this thing so much. And honestly, Dragon, I'm going to put this out there. This might be a controversial statement. I might like this better than Infinity Train.
Really?
I might.
Dragon, that's kind of an unfair
This is
comparison.
the theater kid in me talking. It's a theater kid, all right? I love 2D animated musicals, all right?
Yeah, but again, it's not exactly a fair comparison. Like, one's a musical, one is not.
No,
One's a movie,
I know.
one's
I'm just comparing like what Cartoon Network project, because I feel like Cartoon Network has been kind of on a roll lately. So, I don't know. I mean, they're both great, but I just like I said, Draken, this is just a throwback for me. The villain is a total throwback to like that classic, like love to hate villain of the 90s lore of Disney villains that we just don't have nowadays. And I mean, just like I said, the songs just all the way through just absolutely blew my face off. I mean, this is a Dragon. Basically, this soundtrack. I'm going to make a comparison that I think you'll appreciate here. This soundtrack is essentially what I wanted the Moana soundtrack to be. Every song slaps, Dragon. Every song in this thing slaps.
Slaps?
I'm sorry. I'm using some terminology that kids are using these days because I watch too many roller coaster videos. Anyways, I digress.
The kids today are saying slaps. Man, it's slaps.
Kids today are saying that roller coasters slap, or at least it's one channel that I watch. Anyways.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, suffice to say, Dragon, this Over the Garden Wall and Infinity Train are just all like way right up there, like Cartoon Network. If they could keep putting out stuff like this, I mean, I think they've got a one up on Nickelodeon, in spite of Nickelodeon doing relatively well, with their reboots. I think suffice to say, Dragon, I like this. It's not a fair comparison, really, because both of these are like, nostalgic reboots, and this is just kind of like a movie. But I think it's fair to say that this is this. I feel like this feels like a more complete film than either. It definitely feels like a more complete film than Invader Zim, and it feels like a more satisfying package than Rocko's Modern Life Static Cling. And I like both of those a lot. We did like both of those quite a bit. So this honestly, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like TV 2D animation is just kind of like on the rise, and this is just like a good example of it. As I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of Steven Universe's last run of episodes. They were okay, but this is just really on point for me as a big fan of 2D, 2D musical movies, and that includes stuff that's both Disney and non-Disney. So yeah, that's basically it, Dragon. Let's dive right into your thoughts on it.
Right. I thought it was very well made. I got to admit, I thought it was great. There are a few things that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but I'm a little mixed on a few things. I mean, basically so far I've watched it twice, and I mean I'm coming around on most of it, but just some stuff I'm a little mixed on, where I'm not sure how I feel about it. In terms of the story, in terms of the plotting, it's like a little.
Okay.
But we'll get there when we get there. Just like they're minor issues at the end of the day, but I mean they feel like we'll get to when we get to. But on the whole, I echo many of your sentiments. I would say that it is spectacular. It's great kind of use of 2D.
I was not expecting it to have this many songs. I was not expecting it to be relatively sung through.
Tiki, they said it was a musical, therefore there would be songs.
Well, yeah, but you could have a musical and have 4 songs. You know what I mean? You could. No, I'm not joking. This has what, like 12 or something like that?
I know there's definitely 5. I'm just trying to think if there's.
Oh, there's more than that. There's got to be.
I mean, I don't know if there's necessarily 12. I'm just trying to kind of pinpoint it, but yeah, sure. I mean, there are a lot of reprises. If you count the reprises, then definitely 12. But yeah, that's the thing. Point is, a lot of songs.
Reprises.
Point being, a lot of songs for sure, and all the songs are absolutely great. We'll give you that. I mean, honestly, the Mr. Greg song is Spinell. Spinell's her quote unquote villain song at the start. That's the most Mr. Greg of the whole bunch.
As Nate says, this adds more proof to the statement: villains always get the best song. Yes, definitely agreed.
Seriously, that Spinell song at the opening is pretty cool.
All right.
Okay, anywho, so point being, I'm in favor of it. I had fears going into the Steven Universe movie, especially given the fact that we did kind of peter out at the end of season 5. We are getting more Steven Universe, which does still make me a smidge nervous. Where it's like, I mean, we kind of burned through all of our story. Like, what's left?
Yeah, what is left after this? I mean, I feel like it's going to go into like Dragon Ball Z mode of like just sagas of different villains at this.
Also, kind of in the Dragon Ball Z point, like what this movie is. I mean, it basically, in terms of the sell of this movie, like a new foe comes out of the woodwork. Just pretty much every Dragon Ball Z movie you've ever seen.
Exactly. I actually kind of To me, Dragon, this is like Dragon Ball Z mixed with like a Don Bluth musical.
In a sense, yes. In a sense, yeah. Maybe a splash of Cats Don't Dance for sure too. Yeah, a little bit of that.
Cats Don't Dance feels like a Don Bluth musical.
It
Feels like
does.
it
It
should
really.
be a Don
I
Bluth musical.
I hear you. It really does. Cats Don't Dance is underrated. Many people just like the. Anyway, getting off track.
Let's not get trailed off because I very much agree with you on that sentiment.
Anywho, so yeah, I guess let's dive into it. But of course, in honor of this being a musical, and of course, is what we usually do with kind of the
Oh
Steven
damn!
universe.
Okay, we were both way off. Nate says I'm sure this includes reprises, but Nate says there's 27 songs in the soundtrack.
Does he now?
Yeah,
Sure, it's not just like score. It's all song. It's all like have characters singing.
I'm not sure. Nate, could you verify that? Is it all? Is it all? It could be all score. How many of those are actually sung through songs that appear in the movie, Nate? Anyways, maybe he'll get back to us.
All right, let's see. So should we?
Yeah. So without further ado, folks, we're going to dive into it. Of course, this is a spoiler cast, so for those who have not watched and want to stay spoiler free, I recommend you dive out now. I highly recommend it. It sounds like Dragon recommends it as well. I think I'm a little bit more glowing on it. But I think, honestly, Dragon, that comes down to me just being a theater nerd and loving just the fact that there's so many songs in here. So without further ado, folks, we have a ritual on Steven Universe. And what is that ritual, Dragon?
We'd like to sing.
All right. So without further ado, we
Are the crystal
gems.
we always save the day.
And if you think we can't, we'll.
Always find a way
That's why the people
of this world.
believe in
Garnet
amethyst.
and pearl and
Steven. All right. Nathan says that there's a good 12 songs with vocals, or around 12 songs with vocals. So yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Where do you get all the
Anyways,
money?
yeah. So let's see, Dragon. Where do you want to start?
Well, the thing I think I still one of my favorite things in the whole movie. I just think it hits the right note right out the gate. I love the old school opening credits, where basically do almost like the Wizard of Oz or something, where you have like all the all the credits at the start with kind of a musical overture. It's really nice.
Right.
I love that, and I love that we do a little bit of that at the end to it. That to me is like the perfect note to start the thing off with. Like, yes, we're doing a classic musical here, man.
I mean, to me, that really kind of set the tone of like, all right, like this isn't just another Steven Universe TV movie. This is a movie. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It feels legitimate, Dragon. This thing feels like it could have been in theaters.
Oh yeah. It has a theatrical quality to it for sure. And from what I understand, Rebecca Sugar, she in the last two episodes of season 5, she was kind of testing out what the theatrical look would look like, and I think we got our money's worth here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so we'll quickly get into the villain. Don't you worry, Nate. But I really think that one of the best establishing songs in the score is "We're in the Future," or is that what it's called?
Well, you know what's funny? I looked that up. It's not. I don't think it's called that, but I think it's. I know it's the operative lyric. My mind would go to now we're in the future. I think it's called.
Yeah, now we're in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon, this has a very Muppet opening song vibe to it. It kind of feels like "Life's a Happy Song" or "Hey a Movie." You know what I mean?
Oh, I love me Hey a Movie. Oh God, it's
I
my
know you
favorite.
do, and I love me "Life's a Happy Song," and I think this song is maybe a good a good mix of it.
I think it's Happily Ever After. I think it's what they call it. I think it's what the official name might be.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right. But that sets the status quo quite well. And then yes, let's waste no more time. Let's talk about Spinell, who is definitely a big fan favorite villain, fan favorite character, as Nate can attest.
So Spinell, so of course Spinell, great character. Again, solid villain song. What's really great about Spinell, I kind of looked into this a little bit. So Rebecca Sugar, She did something really interesting with Spinel. Of course, as you'll notice with Spinel, one of the most striking things about her is the fact that she's very kind of old school in the animation style. She's very kind of old Russian stretch, kind of like
very, very, very squash and stretch. Yes.
the kids might cite Cuphead as like the animation style. Others might cite kind of your old the old eras of Walt per
I mean,
se.
don't get me wrong, I love Cuphead, but yes, that is not where that style came from, kids.
But you know what I mean? It's kind of the old big gloved kind of style.
Yeah, sure.
Elongated limbs, big gloves. And that's the thing. So Spinel has that, and Rebecca Sugar, she doesn't like to be nostalgic with her pulls, but she did try to make the thematic for the character. I think that does translate. Where thematically, she's outdated in the past. We know she's in the past, like she's operating off thing that she's experienced from the past. And that kind of leads to a little bit of self-loathing, which this kind of gets to the piece of where again she kind of like, and basically in seeing herself and comparing herself to Pink Diamond's other friend. She's very upset by this. So again, it's really kind of cool that we thematically linked her design to something there. It's nice.
Yeah, I love her design. Let's talk about Steven just growing old too. 16-year-old Steven.
Yeah, Dragon, by the way, we're 2 years since the end of season 5.
What I love about this is how world-weary Steven gets throughout a lot of this. It really adds an element of pathos to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I chose this root image, is because it really kind of like illustrates how desperate Steven can be.
Yeah, we really put Steven through the ringer in this special. We actually allow him to bleed, which is such a rarity. Especially again, it's like almost like Mask of the Phantasm with Batman from the animated series, where we actually allow him to
right.
Where here is like he really gets he's kind of burned with kind of the toxic sludge from the from the giant injector drill, and of course he's kind of punched in the face a few times. I mean, yes, Steven is absolutely he's a very unwise fusion. It's like a lot is taken out from this movie.
And of course, his powers are gone throughout a big majority of the runtime, kind of Spider-Man 2 style.
Yeah.
But even more severe than Spider-Man 2. Yeah, you're right. It does have a better explanation than Spider-Man 2, for sure.
So, I mean, just to backtrack a smidge off of the Steven, just going to springboard off of the, talking about Steven. So, again, the status
quo. Steven?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do a pearl. Steven!
Steven! Anyway, okay, we get back on point. So as I said, we're 2 years after the presumably 1 to 2 years since season 5. Because he was 14. I remember they had the whole episode about him not really aging. So it's kind of like I assume he's 14. He's been allowed to grow up to 16. That's what I think the deal is. About 2 years since season 5. Peace has been achieved. His own home world. He's kind of set the diamonds straight. They're not judging people. They're not shattering anybody. They're really. I love it. It's like a real family dynamic here. Where they're making a genuine effort. Not to judge people and not to be kind of like the perfectionists. They're really judging gems by their purity level and everything, and just being like, we've done everything you've asked.
You know what? This is honestly hilarious. I really love the diamonds in this. Of course, they are kind of neglected to sort of comic relief, but they're fun comic relief, man. And their designs will always be really kick-ass designs. Nothing is going to change that.
Yeah, man, I'm still blown away. White Diamond is probably one of the coolest diamond designs.
White Diamond, I'm still partial to Blue, though. Blue Diamond, that Jim Henson quality, as we often cite.
Very dark crystal looking, crystal looking diamond design there. But yes, the point is the diamond's really great. And of course, they give them so much dimension, especially in kind of the end. That's the big thing season 5 had going for all the white diamond stuff at the end. That's really my favorite stuff. That's the big kind of flag that sticks out from that season for me. Just all the build of just how cool and menacing the build up was for White Diamond. But I mean, yeah, I love the progression on them and how they're trying to get Steven to stay with them. So again, they have a piece of pink and basically broad spectrum.
Join us, Steven, forever and ever and ever.
Yes. That's the thing. I like that, kind of broad spectrum. Again, they are characters who are living in the past while they're being progressive in the future, again, in order to please. Let me rephrase it like this. So you have Pink Diamond, who of course is no longer existing as Pink Diamond, but is in the form of Steven. Mm-hmm. And they've come to grips with, okay, it's not the same thing, but again, it's kind of a remnant of the past. but again, someone who's still striving for progression. And like, Steven is not trying to be Pink Dye. He's not trying to be his mother. He's a reality of like where we are right now, and we should match that as well. Even though we're missing a piece of ourselves, we want that back, which is why they want Steven to say they want some semblance, a reminder of the past, which they do not have. So again, I feel a great swell of sympathy for the Diamonds, and I love how their story wraps up.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Should we talk about that fusion dragon?
Boy, the fusion. Oh man, that's. You want to talk about it?
Do we have a name for it?
Yes, we do.
What is the name?
Steg.
Stag. Oh man, that to me was one of the best moments of the movie. Not just because of the kick-ass design and just like the story reasons and all that and the high stakes, but also because of what it meant. You know, like what it meant for the movie going forward. How Steven this really zaps his power going forward. You know what I mean? Like there's a really story-driven reason why this scene happens the way it does.
You got to remember, Steven he's playing hurt this movie because he's lost his powers, and he's basically trying to be as advanced as he kind of became by the end of things. While he's basically kind of in the
At
infancy
the
of
end,
his
he
power.
basically turns into Super Saiyan Crystal Gem. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. It kicks ass, but it's true.
I don't know if I'd quite say it's a bear mind.
It's Super Saiyan Crystal Gem. Come on.
I
Come on.
Well, I mean, he just barely gets his powers back. I don't know if we can call it Super Saiyan. I don't know.
All right. Anyways, I'm just joshing you. Anyways.
Right, so Steg though. So Steg is one is a really cool fusion. I gotta tell you, it was cool, but it was really jarring at first. I kind of had this moment where I kind of stopped myself. I was like, "Oh God!" I mean, it's cool, but it's kind of like, can we do this? And I realized, wait a minute, Stevani obviously is a human fused in with kind of a half gem. Which, yeah, of course you can do this. Why was I doubting it?
Right.
The old crux of Stevani is again Connie being human and Steven being kind of a little half and half, which is allows for the fusion. Therefore, yeah, he could fuse with Greg. I guess we're just so used to, kind of Steven just kind of fusing with the gems and so on and so forth. It's kind of unusual, but it was cool though.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, Dragon. I'm pulling up. I'm pulling up the soundtrack here.
Well, just to frame things up a little bit here, so it's really cool. So a lot of our songs, a lot of how the music is kind of driven throughout all of this is the fact that basically Steven needs to reawaken the gems in some form, usually via kind of a musical number, and that kind of brings us to like Steg is kind of trying to reawaken Pearl. Now, to backtrack a little here, so Steg. So Pearl is serving Greg in this movie, but it's oh boy, it's sorry, folks. There's a lot to cover here. I don't want to gild the lily too much. Let me put it to you this way. So there's an aspect of this movie that I'm really mixed on. The amnesia scythe. I'm on the fence about the amnesia scythe, and the amnesia scythe is Let me put it this way. Okay, so the Amnesia Scythe is a really cool device. Me, of course, I'm a fan of the gem weaponry and a fan of just kind of the gadgets in general. Of course, we do something like this. That's really cool. I like how the function. I love the purpose behind this, and that it kind of subjugates any gems who kind of step out of line. In the olden days, as if like, hey, a gem's starting to rebel, erase its memory, and kind of basically reset it back to the old factory setting when it emerges from its gem-like state. Essentially, that's kind of the general idea.
All right.
Yeah. I was talking about the amnesia thing. I want to talk about this before we get into the majority of the soundtrack here. So let me. How do you feel?
Okay, yeah, probably a good idea. I'm sorry, Dragon. You'll have to forgive my theater kid tendencies. I'm like, let's talk about the songs. Yeah. I'm sorry. You'll have to bypass that. Anyways,
what I'm saying to you is, I'm on the fence about the amnesia stuff. How do you feel about it?
I think it's handled better than Spider-Man 3.
Well, that's not the best barometer for it.
I know that face.
But that's my point, is that sometimes amnesia stories can be done well, and sometimes
I honestly kind of like Dragon. Here's the thing. I'm going to make a point that I think you might appreciate. All right. What I appreciated about this is that throughout season 1 of Steven Universe, we had Steven kind of being taught by the gems. And now, in this movie, Steven gets to reteach the gems everything he learned from them.
That is pretty cool, but that's what I'm saying. Like, here's the thing. Okay, so on one hand, it feels like Rebecca Sugar's trying to have her cake and eat it too, where she's doing a movie, she's trying to do a movie that anyone can watch, not just the fans. At the risk of wasting screen time with we have to reestablish things that we already know if you know this show. I feel that's the risk that we're taking. However, like for me, for example, when we started this movie, we have again brilliantly, and for the sake of the plot, what we're going to do later, especially with this amnesia stuff, we did so well before that kicks in. We have these wonderful recaps, kind of musical recaps of the gems, kind of giving you their spiel about what their whole deal is. Towards in Act One, right? You know, Pearl kind of talks about how she met Rose and everything. We have a really great.
That was really good. That was really well done. Again, it kind of speaks to the sung through musical quality that I love. That again, theater kid geek out.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. I think we did such a good job with that. We didn't necessarily need a reteaching of things. Where again, like okay, we're up to speed, and of course we're doing that to hedge our bets, just in case people again, like as you're going into this movie. You see what I'm saying? That Rebecca Sugar's like afraid, like if you go in this movie completely blind, you're not gonna know, like you're gonna miss out on like the young Steven that the whole show and the whole property is kind of sold on. But you get a little taste of it through those flashbacks and through those kind of recaps and everything. So we're kind of trying to infuse a little bit of that in the work. And again, I suppose with the theme of the movie, you kind of relearning progress is the point. That's why I'm on the fence about it, because it's not necessarily a problem, but it just feels like I can. It's kind of transparent that we need to take the gems out of the equation. Otherwise, the movie's going to be really short. Where hey, what's the deal with Spinell? And we don't know because they all lost their memory, and that's why we have a movie. you know. And I just kind of feels like yeah, we needed that to happen, but it just feels like yeah, it looks like we're stretching things out before we're doing it for a reason, but there is a reason there. That's it's a little complicated for me. I don't know.
Also,
Yeah.
Nathan, I have to echo his sentiments. Theater kid pride. Yeah, I'm with you, Nathan. All right.
But do you feel we waste any screen time with just kind of relearning the same lessons that if you know the show, you already know where they're going with this?
Well, in the spirit of theater kid pride, Dragon, even exposition can be fun exposition when it's put to a song. And so that's kind of where I land in it. I mean, I gotta tell you, I don't know what to say. It's like, to me, I didn't think it wasted screen time because I was having a lot of fun with it.
I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm just saying it feels like again we're treading over a territory we already did well in the recap earlier on. So that's why I know. I'm just that's again not a bad thing. It was just kind of a thing, I guess. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
All right. However, it is genius to. I wanted just to pick up some points here. So it is genius, and it isn't. Sorry, it is a genius idea. However, to hit Spinell with it, so that we basically Steven experiences exactly what Rose did with Spinell in the first place, and we kind of learn the mystery of her motivation. Like, what is the deal with Spinell? Why is she here? Why is she so upset with Steven? And we kind of learn this through kind of the progression of events while she's kind of back in her sweet and innocent state that she kind of started off with 6,000 years ago. So I thought that was genius how we're doing that. And we're also building in a sense, Teak, on the rewatch, you kind of understand why Rose did what she did in part because of what Steven goes through. Like, oh man, Spinell's there, and she's kind of she's kind of there as a jester 24/7, just kind of like really in his face a lot.
Right.
That is quite clever.
All right. Let's see. Where else do you want to go?
Well, so let's talk about the big threat of the movie. So the big threat of the movie is the drill. So again, kind of the injector drill. And this
I love the visual of the drill, by the way.
What's really great about this visual of the drill tick is that it fills in a blank that we had in the show, where it shows us exactly what would have happened if Rose did kind of commit to the Diamond mission. This is what would have happened to Earth years ago, and that's the idea. Like, I forget exactly where the location was. I forget if it was the moon or not, but basically where Pink Diamond's kind of her colony is, I guess. Basically, where Pink Diamond was kind of held up for a while before she went directly to Earth. Where her warp pad takes her, that kind of that space, she probably had the drill there, and therefore it's just kind of there laying in wait for the big kind of like we're going to colonize the Earth and we're going to basically wipe out all the human life, and that's how they're going to do it. They're going to use this giant drill thing. So that's a great kind of little plot thing to put in there. Poisoning all the organic matter. Well, we talked about a little bit of Spinell here, but of course the tragic flashback of Spinell. Maybe we should hit on that a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, that is actually one of my favorite scenes. I love the setting of the garden. The setting of the garden just has so much, so much poignancy to it.
A little bit of little shades of Jurassic Park in there with her just like staying in the same place.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Yeah, yeah. Oh man.
No, but seriously, that is that
No, you're
that.
right. You're right. And Dragon is just it's excellent character motivation. And here's something that I really want to hit on, my friend.
Go on.
And that is the fact that we really, really explore abandonment. This is the Steven Universe abandonment story, and I love it. I love it, Dragon. I love how in the movie it's not just an excuse to do songs or have a cool villain with a cool animation style, but abandonment, one of the key components to feeling isolated and feeling like you're alone in the world. That is that's such a touchy subject, and I love the way it's explored, my friend.
Yep, and we have a little bit of dependency in there too, with how she's like
Yeah,
she can
yeah,
never leave
sure.
Steven, because again, in that state, she's basically programmed to essentially she's kind of pre-programmed to be with Pink Diamond at all times, and yeah, as your new very best friend, that whole thing, the new best friend idea. And yeah, it's just again, it's just such a I don't know why. Just Spinell again, as Nate said, it's kind of almost like a built-in unwritten law that the villains get the best songs almost every time. Where again, Spinell gets two excellent songs in this piece. Her introduction, this basically this tragedy, what happened to her being abandoned. It was a really neat touch that she was singing Rose's part in that song too.
For sure.
And again, just seeing, basically, I think the biggest mystery I had going is saying, why is the heart upside down? And again, it's kind of a simple mystery you probably could put together, but still, it's a really cool little origin for that visual. Is like we see, like it's not just her heart too; it's like the eyelash too. The eyelashes turn to kind of like basically like the tear mascara running down the face look. So that's really cool. So like basically, all of her positive feelings were turned upside down. It's like it's almost like the old horseshoe rule. You hold the horseshoe one way, hold in the good luck. You turn it upside down to all the bad luck. It's kind of like one of those things.
Definitely, definitely. All right. Let's see. One of the things I thought that they handled well was how they gave the different levels of screen time to different groups of characters. So, of course, we have Steven and Spinell kind of like receiving the most screen time as like the main hero and the main villain. And then the crystal gems are kind of, they're right there with it, but they have to go through the transformation process, so they don't have as much screen time. But they get quite a bit. Then we have Greg right there in the thick of things. And then I would say maybe a level down, but still there, still contributing stuff, still having a lot of memorable moments is the trio of Bismuth, Lapis, and Peridot. And then, the Beach City residents, as they should be, are just kind of like sprinkled throughout in basically cameos.
Yeah, I mean, here's a good sign of here's a big point in the movie's favor: minimal to no onion.
Well, Dragon, weren't you hoping that Onion was going to die in that one moment?
Yeah.
I mean, if they wanted to add stakes, they could have killed off Onion.
Oh, they never would have killed him. He's in this inhuman little thing, but he's still. I mean, he's somewhat a kid, I guess. So they couldn't kill him.
I don't know.
Anywho, regardless, so that
Can I just mention it for the Beach City residents? Sadie's songs are just, they continue to be some of the best songs Rebecca Sugar has ever written.
I agree. Kate Micucci, she's really good at what she does.
I love her voice. I love the like the hard edge that her songs get. It's all good stuff, man. It's all killer.
Well, speaking of a Sadie killer, one might say.
Uh,
Okay, but no, seriously. With that though, here's another thing I want to kind of throw at you here. So, what we're doing with this movie, and again, it's something that is kind of a feather in its cap, but also kind of makes you think here. Where this movie is very much a reunion piece. You earlier likened it to, and you kind of compared it to Invader Zim and to Rocko's Modern Life, a kind of a little more effective version of it. But again, those are also reunion pieces.
It's basically like that minus the nostalgia that those two kind of like the weighted nostalgia that those two carry with them.
Exactly, and that's the thing though. Those have a nostalgic connect, and those feel like, okay, it's been years, and we're actually having a reunion here. Though I think the interesting thing about this movie, though, is that really we haven't had any time away from Steven Universe. Really, maybe
we've had like a summer, or
that's about
like
it.
that's about it. Yeah,
That's the thing. We've had
maybe
it.
maybe a little longer, like maybe like a spring and a summer at the very most.
Point is months. We've had months away from Steven
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
years, and that's something because this movie is very referential to the material. And we have a lot of like there are almost every episode. Let me put it this way: almost there are countless references to the show. Again, we have Satan and Sadie killers. We're touching a lot of base here. Like we have Satan and Sadie killers. We have Lars with the ube, and he's pink, and he's got the the portal coming out of his head. Like we do reference a lot of stuff here. And that's the thing. Part of me wonders if it's ill timed. Do you think it's ill timed at all? Because like, do you think I don't think we've had any time to miss Steven though.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from
It's
that.
like we're
Yeah.
doing 2 years because one, we have to do 2 years because he was at Callus and we can only keep him a kid for so long. I know he's good at doing the voice acting, but again, Steven has to grow. Otherwise, we're going to run into a bit of a problem after a while. So it's kind of a necessity that we do a time jump as we have here, and that's not a problem. But again, it's sort of an issue when we're trying to. I don't know, something. It's not. Again, I want to make clear. None of these things are legit problems with the movie. They are things that kind of make you. I don't know. They kind of again a little mildly mixed on things, I guess. But again, not mixed in a negative way.
Yeah, I hear you.
Anywho, let's see. So of course, something that was hysterical in this movie though. Pearl. Oh my goodness, Pearl! But I love the idea of Pearl being reset and Pearl. The only way they can make Pearl better is make her like Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 3, and they did that. We're basically
And they did. Yep.
Pearl now is subservient to Greg Universe, and I love that
Oh my god.
We gave the wonderful DD Mango all this. Basically, she has singing exposition the best way. This is one time with singing exposition where we had recaps earlier in the movie. This is where we legit have her like filling in the exposition division of like, what are they doing here? What's their purpose? For the kids out there who haven't seen Steven Universe, like she's telling you what a ruby and a sapphire is. Like, what's the deal there? It's like okay. That's great. Let's see.
All right. What did you think of Connie? Like I thought that was pretty well done. How she basically, goes to space camp, but then is still able to kick ass in the final battle. I thought that was kind of like the best of both worlds, where, we don't really need her throughout the story, but we still, we got her to, to kick some ass and, use the sword and everything. We got what we needed her for.
Yeah, we gave Connie her due. She slices through a few cars, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That car slicing is, a big cool factor.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of there's a little bit of progression between the two of them. They might be a bit of an item in the making. Who knows? It naturally happened over 5 seasons, so no problem there.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. So here's the thing. So Steven, as we mentioned, he keeps pushing himself, and kind of. I think Steven comes to grips with the lesson that's kind of a never-ending battle that he's embarking on. The happily ever after will never happen. I will say this though, especially after we got through like a season of Daredevil, where the last episode's about kind of achieving a happily ever after, and I think the difference is here we spell it out. Daredevil, not so much. That's not a fair comparison, mind you. I know. I'll retract that. But still, he's Steven Universe though. It's just the fact that this whole episode is like we verbalize happily ever after into a song, and now that's not so much a problem. More so the fact that we just like say, "Oh, you got a happily ever after." Like, really, we're saying it left and right now. I don't know if that's right.
Oh God. All right. Okay, Dragon. I think I've pretty much reached the point of where I'm satisfied with this conversation. I don't really feel there's too much to add. What do you think?
It's kind of strange. They say kiss the ground of all the poison land.
Yeah, it was like I feel like they could have come up with like a more clever what I was thinking was maybe bottle his saliva. I don't know.
I was thinking like a big sweeping something. I don't know, like he just like. Look, I know it would have been a cop out, but it would have been easier. Like licks his hand, he puts it on the ground, maybe it gives a thought, and then the whole thing's. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can't just like bottle them into a sprinkler system or anything. It's not going to work like that. But hey, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything major here because again, we hit pretty much all the big points there. I mean, let me talk about this. This is kind of important, I guess. So the lesson, Steven's lesson at the end. I feel it's a little redundant, but here there is a point to it. So the lesson that Steve learns is change, because I think what they're getting at is that when he's lamenting, he's kind of he's basically enjoying peace times with the gems of the stars. Like right before Spinel shows up, they're like, "Hey Garner, how's the future look?" And they're like, "Oh no!" Of course, we interrupt that sentiment with like, "Oh God, now there's a new threat showing up before she can answer." And seems like I hope nothing ever changes here. And of course, I think that's what we're going to be using the excuse for our story with. We're okay. Steven says he doesn't want anything to change, and at the very end of things here, Steven says he wants, he learns that he has to change. And that's how he gets his powers back in the big kind of like big last kind of showdown of it all.
Sure.
I just did it really come across the? Like, I think he changed already. I think he was willing to change, but is Peace really is Peace not really willing to change? I mean, well, things have changed. He's kind of okay with it. It just feels a little redundant, but again, I mean, technically, I think her bases are covered on that. But it's like really.
I hear what you're saying, Dragon. I hear what you're saying. I wasn't really, like I said, like to me, I was more focused on the dumb songs more than anything else. So I was like, yeah, change. All right, I get it. We're all in this together. But you know, but no, I see what you're saying from a more critical eye. It's funny that you're being the more critical one for a change. I feel like this is like, we kind of have reverse roles here where, where we both really like this, but I feel like I'm just kind of like more blindly just like, yes, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look again. Those moments, the songs and everything are awesome as well. Again, like the movie has a lot going for it. There's nothing really like ostensibly wrong with it, but there are a couple kind of things to scratch my head at here and there. That's all. And
Fair enough.
I do love the addressment though, like kind of the great meta addressment of you can't make everything better with singing a stupid song.
Right. And then just the dramatic, like she punches him from space to the earth, Dragon.
Okay, that's very Dragon Ball-esque, yeah.
Yes, it is. Come on.
Okay, but I do love. We have to have the big heart of her big revelation there. Where basically, she's just punching the shield there, and she's just kind of like she's crying as she's doing it. She's kind of realizing that seeking revenge will not bring her happiness. It's basically a gesture without a purpose, where I have nothing left. And that's another thing too. I mean, say what you want, man. Look, I think a lot of it is just kind of more like subjectivity, Stephen. One appropriate time we can make that reference. However, now I'm thinking about it again. I think the biggest issue I do have with the movie is kind of a legit issue though, is that it does get us a True Kind of Love, which is a great song and a great sequence. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like we're stretching our runtime when we have this moment where it's just she misinterprets the scythe in Steven's possession. It's like, you were going to erase my memory, weren't you?
Yeah, that totally did feel like a classic, like third act misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm. I feel
I'm not going to argue with you there at all.
I feel like a legit argument can be made for the amnesia, but when we get to that, it's like, okay, now we're just hitting the well again.
No death phase.
Yep. It's now, to be fair, there's real emotion there, and again, I think overall this is why I kind of look back at this, where Spinell's a character. She has real relatable emotion to her. I think it's the biggest, most appealing quality about her, where she's, her fear of being abandoned comes back, and of course, later on, it's just kind of realizing that she's kind of this jester without a purpose, and seeking all this revenge is not going to bring her any happiness. It's like, how can you still want to be friends with somebody when you also kind of hate them with a passion? And you kind of it's kind of the lesson for her is like time heals all wounds, but not in the direct sense. Again, like 6,000 years, a lot can happen. It kind of charged her with revenge, but she sees like, well, Rose isn't here. You're not exactly going to get revenge on her. Things have changed. You have to accept that. So it's kind of the lesson we get through her. So it's kind of a messy way we get there, but it's a good kind of end point. Of course, the wonderful end point to her stories with the diamonds coming back. It's like, hey, come with us. We need somebody to sit on the little tiny pink throne. Why don't you do
it? Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. So, final thoughts on my end. Like I said, Dragon, the fact of the matter is, I love myself some 2D animated musicals, especially when they're sung through. This is sung through, and it has great songs, so I was very satisfied. I'm easy to please in this regard. This is kind of right up Tiki's alley. As Nathan VA says, theater kid pride. Hell yeah. All right. Okay, so Dragon, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, you might want to switch back to the thing.
Yeah, I know. I got it. All right, so folks, thank you so much for joining us. We are the Crystal Gems, and we always save the day. And if you think we can't, we'll always find a way. That's why the people of this world believe in Tiki
Dragon. And
and Steven. Steven.
Steven.
Steven.
The Steven.